Reinhard Heydrich, shortly after World War I, he joined the Navy. He was a young guy. He was too young to fight in World War I think as a teenager he participated in the Freikorps. He had a really promising career in the Navy. He was, he kind of boasted he was going to become an admiral. And Heydrich is one of these people that was just amazingly good at everything he ever did. Eventually he will become an Olympic level fencer. He will become a concert level violinist. He will actually become a pilot, and during the war he will fly combat missions and he'll shoot down a number of Allied planes. He's just one of these guys who's brilliant and he can do whatever he sets out to do, which is horrible because he's going to set out to do some pretty horrible things, as we will see. But here, he's in the Navy, he's got this bright future ahead of him, he's super excited, and he gets engaged. He gets engaged to a woman named Lena, and then he ends up having an affair with another woman. And supposedly, he had told this other woman, this other girl, he was going to marry her. Well, when this girl gets upset, he tells this girl, no, I'm already engaged. We're not getting married. I don't know what you thought. And who knows what he told her. She, of course, felt that she'd been taken advantage of. She tells her father. Well, her father just happened to work in the shipbuilding industry and happened to be good friends with all of these admirals. So he says, this young officer took advantage of my daughter. He is without honor. And at this time, in the German military, as in most militaries, there was really the sense of honor. There was this idea you were a gentleman. There was a code of conduct. So what happens is they held essentially a court-martial for Heydrich, and they kick him out of the Navy. Lena kind of forgives him for his indiscretions, and they get married. But he is kind of depressed. He's doing these kind of crap jobs, and he can't find steady work. He had this glory. He planned to become an admiral one day, and he's just devastated that this didn't work out. Well, it just so happened that this is around 1931 or so when all this goes down. Just so happened that his wife, before they were married, his wife decided to join the Nazi Party. So his wife was a Nazi. And through this Nazi grapevine, his wife says to him, I heard that there's this little organization called the SS. And in this organization, they're trying to start some kind of a new security service or an intelligence service. You should apply. It's a full-time job. It's a good job. So really, just looking for a job, Heydrich goes and he applies. And what happens is he's told he can go and he can meet the leader of the SS, the guy that'll hire him, Heinrich Himmler, on his farm. So he drives out to Himmler's chicken farm, and Himmler supposedly was in his coveralls feeding chickens. And Himmler says, I'm so sorry, I've already selected someone else for this job. And Heydrich is real persistent. He's all, I can do a better job. I can do a better job. And then he says something. He says, well, I was in the Navy, and he lies. He says, I was an intelligence officer in the Navy. He wasn't an intelligence officer in the Navy. But he lies to Himmler. He says, I was an intelligence officer. So suddenly Himmler says, okay, I'll tell you what. I want you to take 15 minutes. Here's a paper and a pen. Sketch out how you would organize an intelligence service for the SS. So he goes and he just kind of improvises and sketches out what he thinks an intelligence service should look like. He comes back and shows it to Himmler, and Himmler says, okay, you got the job. So Heydrich is now in charge of a new agency that is part of the SS. This is called the Sicherheitsdienst. The Sicherheitsdienst, or as we abbreviated, the SD. Sicherheitsdienst literally means security service. Security service. The Sicherheitsdienst is essentially the Nazi Party Intelligence Agency. The Nazi Party Intelligence Agency. It's going to have other roles too, as we will see. It will evolve, as everything in this convoluted system does. It will evolve, but its primary mission here is the Nazi Party Intelligence Agency. It is part of the SS, and of course the SS is part of the SA. Just trying to keep the organization straight here, because it's an alphabet soup. Himmler's in charge of the SS. So Rom's in charge of the SA, Himmler's in charge of the SS, and Heydrich is in charge of the SD. Now, the brief of this new organization and what Heydrich's job is to keep tabs on the enemies of the regime. So if there are prominent people who are communists, social democrats, or other journalists, people that the Nazis, they're not ready to arrest or to move on, but they kind of want to keep tabs on them, that's his job. He's keeping tabs on any enemies of the regime. But very quickly, he is also instructed, and you know what? We also, just to be on the safe side, better keep tabs on party members. So they also start keeping files on various Nazi Party members as well. So what really essentially happens here is not only is the SD keeping tabs on enemies of the Nazi Party, they're keeping tabs on enemies of Himmler and Heydrich as well. Heydrich kept a secret file on Himmler, right? I mean, they're all kind of plans within plans here, right? Now, as Himmler is expanding his own police power throughout Germany, and again, his title was Reichsführer, initially he appoints Himmler to be the head of all police in Germany except for Prussia. Because Goering, he pretty much runs everything in Prussia. Now, Prussia, not only is Prussia the largest state in Germany, it's about like 2/3 of Germany, right? It's huge. So Himmler controls all the police outside of Prussia by early 1934. So he controls, as I say, the police everywhere except for Prussia. Now, this is an entirely new development in German history, because historically, all police control had been local. All police control had been local. Now you kind of have this federal police agency minus Prussia, okay? But policing had always been a state and local matter up to this point. Now, Himmler had been very shrewd, and he had done this very smartly. He had gone to like each of the governors of the different states, and he'd kind of had bribed them or blackmailed them or got them to hand over him more and more power. So again, he goes to Hitler and he says, look, I'm creating this big police force. And Himmler, oh, that's a good idea. Hitler didn't instruct him to do this. Himmler's doing this on his own initiative, right? And he's very good at putting together this police force. But in Prussia, remember, the Gestapo is a Prussian organization. So Goering is nominally the head of not the direct head, that was still Rudolf Diels, but it's under his control, right? So, and Goering knows the Gestapo is a powerful agency. It's a powerful agency. So he doesn't want to give it up. In fact, Goering was probably trying himself to find a way to control all of the political police forces throughout Germany, but Himmler just kind of beat him to the punch. That was probably something that Goering wanted to do, but Himmler just was able to do it sooner. But Himmler kept putting pressure on, or I shouldn't say put pressure on, but kept lobbying Hitler, I really should have all police forces. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to have this kind of national police force except Prussia. And Goering was kind of fighting. Goering, this is Prussian, this is mine. It's this big turf war. It's this big turf war between Himmler and Goering over the control of over the police. But then something occurs to Goering. As much as I don't like Himmler, I really don't like Rom. Himmler's this pipsqueak. I can deal with Himmler. Romm's got a 2 million man army. And what's more, Himmler, I know, he doesn't care much for Romm, his boss, either. So it's kind of that old idea of the enemy my enemy is my friend. So with that in mind, Goering kind of has a change of heart. And so he says, we need to work together to get rid of Romm. We need to work together to get rid of Romm. So in the spirit of that, and working with Hitler, in April of 1934, April 20th actually, which was Hitler's birthday, Goering essentially says, okay, I still retain command of the Prussian police system, but I recognize that for day-to-day administrative purposes, you would probably do a better job coordinating it with what you're doing in the other states. So in theory, Goering still controlled the police in Prussia, but the reality was Himmler really is going to control all the police throughout the country. Himmler gave an address to the policemen in Berlin, and in that address he thanks Goering as Minister-President of Prussia. He says, I shall forever remain loyal to you. You will never have anything to fear from me. Which is Nazi talk for, just wait. Just wait.